Each room presents the boxes stacked, awaiting to be unpacked, their contents and context wrapped away neatly for you to discover in your own way. There are no time limits or any guidance on where to place objects until all of the contents of the boxes have been placed. Sometimes things don't go to plan. Sometimes cupboards, shelves and wardrobes fill up quickly. The tidiness you envisioned could possibly be unachievable in this moment. Luckily for you, each room does have its vague rules on where things should be, and what quickly becomes apparent is that your job in unpacking is not simply about placing things, it's about moving things too. There's a feel for what can go where as time goes on. Unpacking's isometric perspective allows for experimentation as each item snaps into place automatically. It acts as a particularly pleasing way to observe each room's advantages and flaws. All that's left is to fill the room with all the things in the right places. However, if you start to view unpacking in a philosophical lens, its underlying meaning gradually filters through as time goes on. Unpacking portrays a positive spin on the idea that balancing out order and chaos through the organization of your environment will be beneficial for you in the future, as well as hold some therapeutic value in the process. In visual terms, the chaos manifests itself in the empty space and densely filled boxes of unknown items. As we're all aware, too much chaos in any form can have an unrelenting negative effect on your behavior and perspective. There's quite a lot of evidence for this too. Many grow up with great difficulty throughout their school years. Perhaps they were bullied or suffered unjust consequences through no fault of their own. Others might suffer constraints unfairly bestowed on them by political means or social norms. These effects tend to linger on and stay with us through the years, sometimes shaping our personalities and behaviors in some way. Even on the micro scale, where we are physically in any given moment can sometimes have a profound effect. A hot bath after a long day, for example, reforms stressful thoughts skittering across the mind and lets them melt away, even if it's just for a short while. Unpacking's vibrant, detailed art style acknowledges the sentiment that who you are in any given space matters, that a careful approach should be taken to not only create a livable and pleasant space, but to observe it too, to be a part of it in some form. The Japanese recognized the juxtaposition between the impermanent world around them and the appreciation it manifests, even as far back as the 1500s with their tea gardens, reflecting mindfulness and simplicity in conjunction with nature, that there is in fact beauty in the transient. Wabi Sabi was the name given to this integral philosophy, integrated into the tea houses. Observation and appreciation towards change and of the character that the change builds. These elements of Wabi Sabi are reflected both visually and internally in its intrinsic meaning. Rocks and wood weathered from rain and wind, for example, display the meaningful organic process of nature along with a stoic sense of age. Unpacking demonstrates part of this philosophy in both its music and visual composition. Seasons, lives, and the change in those lives are proposed to us in the rooms we visit. The external source for transient appreciation now becomes internal. The items nestled away in the boxes don't necessarily have any visual aging on them, but the themes to suggest that time has passed are present. Many of the items are recurring, hidden away in different boxes through each level change, despite the indication of turbulence through the inhabitants' lives. Before I move on, I just want to check up on you. Uncertainty and the unpredictable nature of our emotions can be exhausting, even more so if the world around us is changing constantly. If you're going through a difficult time, don't give up. Talk about it to those close to you, and take small steps at any pace you feel comfortable with to build upon who you are. Much like these rooms, change comes from the inside, and the suffering you might be going through won't last forever. Tomorrow is another day you can work on coming out the other side. I know you'll make it through, and you're not and never will be defined by the difficulties on your shoulders. You are meaningful, regardless of what external stressors are on you now. Unpacking suggests that change also occurs through the homeowners themselves, both with the organic way life experiences define an individual and therefore influencing them to pick up new living habits and tastes in their inventory of packed objects, and also through the essence of building character through starting again, starting from scratch, that their story is interwoven with each other. Its movement from one home to another is part of the character building in tangent with the tenant. However, the life changes and character building of the homeowners are hidden from view. Only the items are here and the rooms they occupy. Connections must be built purely from these aspects. In contrast, Jeff Van Dyke's soundtrack is like staring out of the window on a long train ride. It echoes contemplation. It blends seamlessly with the delicate thought process of how to build, unpack and sort, to categorize. There's a pace to each track that paints a bit of context as to what's happened outside of your peripheral. The track you're hearing now is called Own 2 Feet. Its bouncy guitar strings and positive melody play after the very first room you organize. It's laced with a cautious anticipation for the future, as the subsequent room for the first level looks like a small apartment, away from home. It implies whoever you're unpacking for has now moved out and taken the first step away from the familiar in order to become an adult. Each track summarizes the feelings and emotions that might come with the overbearing task of moving, and that unpacking is not just about the process, it's about reflection too. Reflection on turning over a new leaf and crafting an environment that synergizes with moving forward. This then begs the question, as we play unpacking, are the items themselves a reflection of the people who live here? Are items grounded in reality a reflection of ourselves in some way? To some extent, yes. It's definitely plausible to assume that the owner's emotions, memories, and aspects of their deeper thoughts are attached to the items we unpack in some way. Except for the Febreze on the toilet, its history and meaning is apparent with no extrapolation needed. Perhaps there's an intricate story to be told. From the music, level design, and the tiny pixel items ready to be stored away at your own volition. Why is it that you're not watching someone else pack away their stuff? Why is it you that is tasked with such a job? Maybe unpacking is also trying to develop the foundations in creating a healthy domain for you as well. Jordan Peterson's book 12 Rules for Life has a chapter dedicated to this very aspect. It's called Set Your House in Perfect Order Before You Criticize the World. The chapter and its meaning extend beyond the confines of a cute little game about tidying a room, but in essence, it expresses the virtues of fixing your own problems before outwardly attempting to fix others. That eradicating particularly harmful habits of outsourcing blame and contempt to external circumstances won't net you any progress in achieving growth from difficult places. It talks about focusing on the attempts to take responsibility for your own actions and asks what you can do here and now that will help you exert control over how you perceive tragedy and cataclysms in your life. How you might separate merely the observation of such events and the way that it shapes a particularly pessimistic and spiteful perspective inside of you. Doing so will grant you a solid foundation in the approach to fixing your life, as well as the lives of others. And I think that's where unpacking comes in a little, albeit in not quite a monumental way. If you can help to make that room, or at least the place you live in, tidy and organized, it'll not only allow you a better condition to take care of yourself, but will also allow you to take care of others in a healthy way too. Perhaps this is why cleaning is therapeutic, since it is the first step one must take to bring some order to the external chaos around us, whether that is emotionally or physically. I think we're all fundamentally aware of that ethos on some level, and it's why unpacking is such a comfy and calming game to get absorbed in. If you've played Unpacking before, you'll know that there is a single slide at the end, which gives some of the themes discussed here a little more depth. Many of the connections inferred from little clues dotted around hint at this aspect of growth and perseverance, but it's done so in a very warm and wholesome way. And it was a joy to play. It's a simple concept that provides comfort and positive vibes in abundance, even if its length is short. No matter how you interpret its core message, I'd recommend it if you've had a particularly stressful day or just need to zone out for an hour or two and unpack your thoughts. I promise, by the time you finish, you'll feel right as rain. Just before I wrap it up, I want to say I read all the comments in every video I make. I love hearing and interacting with people who have something to say. I also have a Discord server link in the description for anyone who's interested in talking about the topics discussed here. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful rest of the day.